Welcome everybody, how's it going? This is the RambleCast on January 22nd. Had to look at that and just wrap my head around it. And I'm your host, Cody Toombs. With me I've got Corbin Davenport. It has been... Oh, go ahead and say hi.
Hello.
It has been one hell of a week. Oh boy.
Shout out to Diablo, who's been sitting here patiently
Yes.
while Cody and I complain about unrelated things and talk about video editors.
Some brief talk about video editors, a whole lot of talk about other editing that sucks.
I might get to talk about video editors next week. We'll see. Speaking of video, Netflix is more expensive now. So once again, Netflix is raising prices. It loves to do this during its earnings report at like the very end of the day, which is always really annoying to me as someone who would like to be fully done with work at 5. So the Verge has a really nice graph here, but basically the change is that the ad-supported tier will go from $7 a month to $8 a month, which is, I believe, the first increase for that since the plan was released at the end of 2023. And then the standard ad-free plan is going from $15.49 a month to $17.99 a month. And the highest price premium tier, where you get like a lot of screens at once and 4K support. Actually, if you want 4K at all, you need this one. Is going from $22.99 a month to $24.99 a month. And the changes will go into effect on the next billing cycle.
And don't forget that the standard with ads plan is even getting the first price bump ever.
Yeah. So like, I don't think there's a lot to say here. Just that like, they're gonna keep doing this until it hurts them. And so far, it hasn't really hurt them. People just kind of suck it up because everything gets more expensive. And I guess every time this happens, there is people who unsubscribe. There's the wave of like, this is it, I'm out, I'm bouncing. But the numbers don't lie. They're still doing very well in subscriber numbers. And they pointed out that like they're getting a bunch of live events now, a lot of sports stuff, which is expensive, but I guess they're getting a return on that. So yeah, if you think Netflix is too expensive, then just vote with your wallet and don't pay for it, like me.
So
Diablo said if T-Mobile didn't have the Netflix on us perk, I would have canceled by now. Yeah, that's still included. Although I kind of wonder how the math on that works from the carrier side, if they're eventually going to start like charging some amount for access, especially on the older plans where people locked in prices forever ago. I am curious how that works, but I guess it's like a business side thing. Like all those details are not going to be public.
Yeah. So, this is the classic, like, we're going to bilk customers as much as possible. And I'm gonna say this and I only halfway mean it, but I don't blame them, like I do, but they are a business. They're just trying to do what they are technically obligated to do, which is try to make more money. That said, yeah, I don't think that this is particularly great for the health of the company. I mean, at a certain point, yes, you can do this for a while, but that inflection point will come where people people who were enjoying Netflix in general are eventually going to flip around and say, you know what, I'm okay just not having Netflix for 6 months out of the year, or let's just subscribe for the shows we actually care about, and the stuff we don't care about, we'll watch those later when we have our like intermittent subscriptions. Which basically just means that did you watch Squid Games? Great, you subscribed for 1 month. Some people will come back for Stranger Things at the end of this year. For those that don't know, quick reminder, Stranger Things season 5 I think is supposed to come in November of this year. Which I've already seen some people kind of saying, watch that get split up into 2 parts, so you might have to like resub in March to finish it.
One episode a month.
That would be sufficiently gross, but Netflix has taken seasons of shows and split them into 2 parts before, so that would be pretty. Stranger Things is like their obvious. Come on, it's their Game of Thrones. It's the show that everyone latched onto and loved, and at a certain point they kind of ran out of stuff to do, but they figured they'd choke one last season out of it. And now that it's coming, 2 years, 3 years later, whatever it is, it's so much later. That's it's just kind of the given. They're gonna try to choke whatever little extra they can out of it. So, but that's the thing. Like, this is just going to be their new thing. Also, hello and thank you for the follow, JC Palmer.
Oh, I think that's Jordan.
That's what I was thinking.
From AP.
Yeah.
He just replied to my Mastodon post saying, Jesus, Cody, you got old since AP days.
I let the beard grow. Well, I let the beard grow and I'm wearing the beanie.
I still can't grow a beard. You don't want to see me try.
Yeah.
I mean, this is annoying. Again, I'm sure all they're very smart business people have done the math and say, though, not enough people will unsubscribe. And it is interesting to see this, 'cause I think this is happening in some other categories too, where a lot of companies are disruptive at first and then eventually just turn into the thing they were supposed to replace. The joke in Evolution about how everything just evolves into a crab over time because the crab is the most ideal form of it. This is just what happens. This is the ideal distribution channel for movies and shows, is the thing you pay for each month that's kind of expensive and usually still has ads. Mm-hmm. This is just return to crab. Everything's crab. So it's pretty silly to watch continue happening. I am still very interested in what happens over the next few years with bundling, because it feels like that's kind of difficult to maintain too, where eventually that's going to have a reverse effect of like, this streaming service isn't in the bundle I'm already having, so I'm just not going to pay for it because I already have this bundle and I don't want to get a different one. And to a certain extent, streaming services need those bundles more than ever because it is extremely hard to get people to pay for new ones. That's why most of the streaming services that have been introduced over the past decade consolidated or died. Mm-hmm. So like Netflix, I'm maybe Netflix is losing more money now on like T-Mobile deal than they'd like to, but that is a like guaranteed gigantic income stream for them. And I'm sure it's the same with a lot of other deals, like everything, like every streaming service that ever got bundled with like random unrelated stuff, where a certain amount of people stay subscribed after a deal ends or something. So it's just interesting to watch. Interesting to watch everything become crab. And Netflix is going to keep doing this until they lose too many people. And I'll give them like the tiniest amount of credit I can. It is still much easier to cancel a Netflix subscription than it ever was to cancel cable or satellite or anything like that. Now, granted, if Adobe is anything to go by, once they start getting more losses, that might change because the US still doesn't really have good legislation for this, and I don't think most other countries do. I'm sure Europe like lets you cancel something immediately. Like that's, if you don't, you go straight to jail. But we don't do that here.
So, I mean, yeah, cancellations. To be fair, the biggest reason why cable and satellite and whatever else their cancellations are so troublesome is usually because there's hardware involved. But yeah, let's be honest. If Netflix and Disney Plus and anybody else could somehow have had hardware, they absolutely would have made cancellation so much more tiresome and annoying. So I will say,
Diablo said, when do we think people would stop subscribing for any streaming service? Wonder when we will hear news that a streaming service drop prices back.
Oh, none of them will do that.
I don't think they're not going to do that, but they will bump up sales. So like you're going to see a lot more of like the thing Hulu does every Black Friday, where they'll give you like a year of service for some pretty low number. And it's always going to be on the ad plans, because it's okay if they eat a loss on that initial sign up, because ads pay so much better, which is why the Netflix ad plan is significantly cheaper.
Yeah.
And that, I think they even said like they make more money on the ad plans than they do like the most expensive premium plans. Like the ads are just that, it pays based on the usage. So the more you use it, the more money they make from you.
Exactly. And technically they do pay out to shows more based on usage, or viewing. But Netflix, the way their contracts work, famously Netflix pays very, very little in royalties for their shows. They want not total ownership, but a much higher percentage of ownership than historically most series and movies have had. So yeah, they're generally kind of anti-royalty. And yeah, to be fair, Netflix, it's a bit of a gamble, and for different customers there are different advantages. Netflix in their happiest day would have a customer that just signs up for the $25 plan and doesn't watch anything at all. That would be their dream, because they don't have to pay anything out to anybody, and they made $25 minus transaction fees. Their second happiest day is a person who signs up for the ad plan and watches as much Netflix as they can, like leaves it on a constant stream all day long with ads playing. So yeah, those are their two favorite viewers, and they're at opposite ends of the spectrum. So
the fun thing that could happen is the online advertising industry collapses, which I'm kind of shocked it hasn't, and also I would like it to not do that, because when that happens, I will definitely get laid off. I'd like to not be unemployed.
Yeah. Well, then we're all in trouble, but
right. And then like literally like the global economy goes into a recession. Because we accidentally built up too much around advertising.
Pretty much. So I will say that and going back to the point of would any of them drop prices? I guarantee none of them will drop prices because it would look bad. It would look like they made mistakes. Instead, what they're going to do is either introduce new plans that basically replace the old ones, kind of. That way they can basically say, we're not dropping prices, but here's a new plan that's kind of around the same price as the old one. Or, or somewhere in between two plans. That way they can still sort of fake it. The other thing that they'll do is very likely they'll introduce new perks to the high price plans, and it'll be things that make you feel like you have to pay for the higher price thing. The best example I could think of is like behind the scenes content or exclusive shows that are only available with the high price tiers, just for example. Or
renting discs in the mail, they could do that.
Yeah. Or even something like everyone's really super into this idea of doing live stuff right now. That's obviously been a big thing with Max. It's now becoming a thing with Netflix, and a few others are either doing it or have done it or want to do it. And it wouldn't be too surprising if they turn around and said, okay, you only get the live stuff with the high price tier. That, because that costs us more, whatever their excuse is. And yeah, that'll be the classic upsell to get people onto the most expensive plans, or it'll, if they overprice a plan, they'll transition stuff to that high price plan just so they can make sure that people have to go for that. All I can say,
everything becomes Crab or everything becomes Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm.
These are the two extremes. Either it will become cable or it will become Netflix joined with like 15 other unrelated services, and like unsubscribing them would significantly impact your life.
Yeah. So that, and look, I'm just gonna come right out and say it. I think Netflix is dancing with that very dangerous devil, where the higher you push with this, the more likely it is that you finally push a average person to tip over the edge and go, what's this thing I hear about torrents? And seeing as a lot of people in a lot of states have recently, for we'll just say legislative reasons, have had to start picking up VPNs. I mean, if you're already paying for the VPN, why not start investigating this interesting little torrent thing? So
yes, this is what you can do in addition to helping the people in your life who need help, is teach young people how to torrent things.
Yes.
This is a very important thing you can do in your community.
I haven't seen anyone do an article like this, and I can totally see why no one will, or very few people will. But honestly, someone should totally do an article that says, now that you have a VPN so you can visit adult sites without identity checks, you should probably also use it for piracy.
I have thought about like a general like how to torrent things guide, but that would be the worst possible idea for me to write.
Sure, but
put on a website.
But you're talking about a guide. I'm talking about the article that literally says, now that you've already subscribed to a VPN, here's other uses for it.
Anyway.
And low key, somewhere on that list is just straight up, just go pirate everything. Like, you might as well.
Yeah, this is what like NordVPN would put on their like corporate blogs if they weren't cowards, but instead they just do what all the other VPN companies do, and they're like, get a VPN so it encrypts your web traffic, makes you private. No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
it doesn't do that. every here's a Corbin pro tip. Every time you see a blog post or a YouTuber or someone say a VPN encrypts your traffic, that is a giant red flag that the person does not know what they're talking about, or does know what they're talking about and is bullshitting you.
Mm-hmm.
That is a thing that VPN companies love to say, but it's not true, because 99.999% of all web traffic is already encrypted. That's what HTTPS is. So internet service providers already cannot see like the individual pages you visit or the contents or modify those contents. They can if it's not HTTPS, but that's almost none of the web now.
Yeah, that's at this stage.
If you want to hide
what apps are transmitting, back end stuff, or for like either old school or very generic protocols like the international time server stuff. That's not encrypted because there's no reason for it to be.
Yeah, and like so like at that point your ISP is mostly just saying like the domains you visit, but like if you want to go a step further, you could use a different DNS that would hide that too, and then you like your ISP doesn't know what you're doing. It is more complicated than that, but like generally like that's where it's at. It's definitely more complicated.
They can still see what IPs you're connecting to, assuming you're not using a VPN.
Right.
And they could, based on IP, they can make some assumptions. Like, let's be honest, Pornhub is not sharing IPs with Twitter or something like that. And so, for large companies, they can make some assertions based on IPs. And changing your DNS won't save you from that. But how much do people really care? Just to be brutally honest here, I don't think a whole lot of people are out there going, "Oh my God, my ISP knows I'm going to Pornhub." Really?
Right. The thing of well, you say that, but give Trump 6 months and he'll order like every state to put everyone who visits a no website on a list to go straight to jail.
That'll be more of a Mike Johnson thing, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like if you like the thing people have in their heads with VPNs where it's like, oh no, I connect to the Starbucks Wi-Fi and my credit card is gone. That's not a thing unless you have like a stalker following you around who is also like breaking into the routers at Starbucks. So like unless you have a serious life-threatening situation or you are like ahead of state or something, this is not a scenario. There's like 100 more things you need to think about before that.
Mm-hmm. And in fairness,
anyway,
we are describing this from the U.S. perspective, whereas in other countries, some of these concerns.
Other countries, you need a VPN to go to Google. So
yeah,
which will also be here in 6 months. Give it 6 months.
Yeah.
I accidentally closed the window that I had all this stuff in. Okay, there we go. All right. So now that we're not talking about Netflix anymore,
exactly.
Time to talk about the Galaxy S25.
Yes, new phone, new year, new phone.
Yeah, today was Samsung's Unpacked event where they showed off the Galaxy S25, S25 Plus, and S25 Ultra. They also teased a S25 Edge coming later this year, which is just thinner. They're not so. That one was weird because we got the at How To Geek, we got the embargo for the 3 main phones yesterday, and then they did not a single mention of the Edge phone in there, and no pictures or anything of it. Like The Verge even asked Samsung, like, "Hey, do you have anything else here, like a picture or anything?" And they're like, "No, just what was in the live stream." But then they had it like at the floor somewhere, so like there's pictures of it in like the big display thing. Which I'm gonna be honest, if I was a phone manufacturer and the first impressions I was giving everyone of my super sleek phone were its only purpose is to look cool. All the pictures and video were like blown out shots of it with 100 people behind it, looking into it in like a dusty glass frame. That seems like not what you should do, but I don't know. I'm not a marketing person. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but just kind of the inside baseball opinion on this. Also, don't spring stuff like this on a bunch of journalists, reporters, whatever.
Right.
There's no benefit.
We get scared. We get scared. We need.
Well,
don't surprise.
Yes. I mean, we are cagey creatures that don't like coming out of our caves anyway. So if you do this, we're panicky and likely to freak out. No, I'm kind of half kidding. Also, not kidding as much as I wish I was. But in all seriousness, we talk about embargoes all the time for a reason. Embargoes exist so that a bunch of different places can all write about something, be informed about the thing, at least as informed as the company is willing to let them be, and write a cogent, thought out set of articles, which are all basically just straight up product promotion, but that's besides the point. If you basically sideswipe a bunch of journalists with a surprise announcement, all you're gonna get is a bunch of people scrambling to write something as fast as they can, using whatever garbage images they can pull from the live stream, or it's just such a bad strategy at this day and age. I mean, back when I joined Android Police, we were always surprised. No company sent out embargoes for their whole announcements with all the details, because that would have been insane at the time. Now, company or outlets have established themselves. Companies know that they can generally trust them to keep secrets. It actually, air quote, the keep secrets part. And yeah, it's not that big of a deal. And yeah, it gets managed. But it's kind of, in this case, no, just tell people. Just tell people you're going to like tease this thing. Give them some images they can use and say, we're not announcing any more than this at this time. That's it. And the writers would have 100% have gone with it.
Yeah, so like inside baseball aside, like this just look, I guess it's thinner, but it looks like every other phone. I'm sure it's okay, so The Verge says it's this is 6.4 millimeters thick, and the regular Galaxy S25 is 7.2. So it's thinner, but like, I don't know. I think this is a very silly thing for Samsung, and rumor has it Apple to be chasing, because we did the whole like we need to make electronics as thin as possible thing. We did that like 6 and 8 years ago, and it resulted in an iPhone where like it bends if you look at it funny. And I thought we all moved on from this, and we went back to having like a normal battery life. We want the slightly bigger phones so we can have the bigger battery so it lasts longer and doesn't fall apart if you sit on it. But again, what do I know? Lowly tech journalist. So yeah, besides the Edge phone that we know almost nothing about, there is the S25, S25 Plus, and S25 Ultra. I am surprised at how basically nothing has changed. So I haven't read all the specs tables myself in detail. It's been kind of a busy day. But from what I understand, Engadget had a pretty good summary of overviews, the changes, and they mentioned that on the base phones, they've obviously have the new Snapdragon chip. That's the main upgrade every year. The base phones went from 8 to 12 gigs of RAM, that's nice. A little bit different build. They do have a slightly different design now. It is very close to the current iPhone, where like it is like a block with no round edges at all, except on the actual like bezel part. So like the front and back are completely flat, but there's the rounded edges around the actual like I don't know what you call like that band around the outside. That is rounded, so like when you hold it, it doesn't dig into your hand, which was an issue on like the old Note phones and the S Ultra phones that evolved from the Notes, and also the S25 Ultra has that same design, so that won't dig into your hands. But besides that, the base phones, they have the same screen size. I believe the displays are the same. Storage is the same, starts at 128 gigs, which is fine. Prices are the same, so it starts at 800 for the S25 and 1,000 for the S25 Plus. And then on the Ultra, they did upgrade the ultra-wide lens, so it went from 12 megapixels to 50, so that's nice. And they also removed support for the S Pen Air Commands, which is the thing where you could like raise the S Pen like a little wand and do fun gestures, which I remember. I think I maybe used that once on my Tab S6. I don't remember if it was that or if it was just me using, because what you could also do, which I really liked, is with the tablet, I could start playing a movie or something and use the S Pen button as a play and pause, which was kind of nice, like a little remote. I don't know if that's this. But Engadget said, although the phone continues the tradition of including an S Pen, Air Commands, which bridge the gap between the S Pen and the Galaxy Ultra and the Galaxy Note, have bit the dust. Samsung told Engadget in a briefing that fewer than 1% of S Pen customers use the feature, and those who mostly did it used it as a camera shutter, which is now easily replicated in other ways. And they said that removing that let them remove some weight from the S Pen and make it more durable. So I guess that is what I was thinking of, and you could also use it as a shutter, but it's kind of nice. But I guess you could still do the like voice command to take a picture or something. I guess is what they're talking about.
Most likely. That or I don't know if this is there, but I assume they also have gestures for the camera. That's a thing. Like that's a thing with a lot of action cameras where you can just hold up your hand like this, and it'll detect it, or maybe make a peace sign. It'll detect it and be like, oh, okay, we recognize that you want to take a picture, and it'll do a countdown and take a shot.
Yeah. Or if you have a smartwatch, the camera app on that will do this. That's what I use my Apple Watch for a lot. And also, like all of those super cheap Bluetooth shutter buttons still exist. I have one in a drawer somewhere.
They still exist, though. I don't know how many of I don't know that every phone still works with them. But I guess Samsung doesn't care about that. I assume Samsung probably still works with those. So yeah.
Yeah. So that's really all that changes, and I'm. There's no reason for anyone with an S24 to buy these, unless like you're, or really an S23, maybe even S22. I say maybe even like, email suddenly stops working on the other phones. Really, the limit where I would say like you do need to upgrade is whatever phone is getting the end of its security updates, which I think at this point would be like the S20 or S21. That's really when like I would recommend people switch, because it's just very iterative updates every year, which like is fine. You know, that's just how smartphones work. It's how most computers work. Like we kind of just reached peak smartphone, so it's going to be like this until we get another breakthrough in chipset manufacturing or batteries or whatever. But it does become a little bit silly, to the point where they're, you know, this year and last year, the main thing they were talking about is just like software features, that most of which are going to show up on the older phones as well. And the prices remain the same. And yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. There's also a lot that I feel like Samsung is falling behind with the competition with. Like one of the, I went from a Galaxy S. I went from a Galaxy S10e, which is still in the drawer behind me, which I really liked, though the camera was not good, but I liked everything else about that phone. Great phone. Then I went to the S20 or the S21, and then I upgraded to the S22 and then 3. I did like the trade-ins every time, so it didn't cost a lot. And all those phones were almost identical. There was like changes to the like design each time. You know, they moved around the cameras, they changed the bezels a little bit, changed some colors. The cameras would get like marginally better, but like I even wrote one article at one point that was like the cameras, like the Ultra did get more changes every year, but the base S and S Plus phones, like those barely change. Like even over several years, they're almost the same phone. Like they don't, like a lot of the camera stuff that shows up in the S Ultra like just does not trickle down to the base phones. And all of Samsung's phones still don't have like Apple satellite stuff. Like that whole play with Qualcomm just never happened. So that's still missing until carriers figure that out. Again, kind of minimal camera improvements on the base phones. Like they're still fine. Like I don't think anyone buying this is gonna be like, wow, this really sucks. Like they're good phones, but it does feel a little bit silly to be like every year we're like, all right, we're only changing things that are or like most of what we're changing ends up being an inconvenience. Like one thing I wrote like 2 years ago, and I probably should just write this like every time a new phone comes out because it's so easy, is like, okay, if we reach the point where phones are not really changing, can we stop changing the design so cases and accessories work over multiple years?
I mean, I've been making this argument since before phones stopped changing.
Right, like
most of the time, and I will grant, I have seen and heard reasons why certain phones either had to change or for some at least practical reason they did change. But generally speaking, most of the times phones could have maintained identical dimensions, and
yeah, I mean,
you'd be fine.
You look at the spec sheets for the Samsung phones every year, and it's like, okay, one year it got like 0.2 millimeters wider, and then the next year it got like 0.1 millimeter thinner. It's always just enough, so you have to go out and buy new cases. And I know that's part of this equation. Is Samsung would like your money. Samsung wants to make like Spigen and all these case manufacturers happy with yearly sales. It still drives me up a wall though, because it feels like, you know, if we have peak phone and nothing really needs to change, can we please benefit from that? Like, you know, Apple does this too, but they have not done it with like sometimes they don't do it right, and then you get like the iPhone SE models that can use cases from much older iPhones, which is nice. So this is the thing we could be doing, but because the hardware can't really change anymore, all Samsung can do every year is like move around the cameras and slightly change the back of the phone, and then that results in more changes that need to be made to cases. So
Mhm.
it's annoying. It's annoying that we we got a peak smartphone, but because we still are under capitalism, it has to change just enough to make us keep buying stuff. So
Yeah.
really grinds my gears.
Well, and a complaint that part of my complaint is a little bit different. It's not just about waste. It's tell me the last time you got a case that you felt like it was a value add. And what I mean by that is right now, almost every case for an Android phone that you can buy, and I don't want to get into this with iPhones because that's a little bit of a different story, but not by enough. With almost every Android phone case you can buy, they're going to be the typical, air cushion case. They're made of either silicone, some sort of maybe polycarbonate. They might just be those, flimsy rubber cases. Or you could go with like a premium leather case or something like that. Great. Now, out of that, somewhere between 40 to 60% of these cases also add MagSafe, which cheers. This is probably the only actual feature that any of these cases offer. Yeah. So, which it's such an easy thing to add. Of course, it's a feature that cases offer because you're just sticking some magnetic plates into your design and probably just pouring whatever material into a mold. So that's it, But when's the last time that you got a case that had any other feature? And outside of Moments cases that have lens mounts, I can't really think of too many, and that's kind of the problem. Like, imagine if we could have had cases that, and I'll say this right now, I know some people would balk at this idea, but I absolutely believe this, or I believe in this. If you made a case that actually brought something new to the table, and I knew that I could use it for, say, 2, 3, 4 years in a row on different phone models, I'll shell out $150 for a case. Mm-hmm. Bring me value.
Yeah, because like at that point, it's almost like like furniture you use every day. Like it's like I'm gonna be using this phone for a long time, or I'm going to swap it for a phone that is compatible with the same cases. But because the cases end up being tied to the life of the smartphone, you don't know how long you're going to keep the smartphone. It is annoying. Someone said my dad is thinking of getting the S25U. Yeah, I mean, it looks like a good phone. It's just not really an upgrade if you have like the last couple Ultras.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing. Like Samsung still makes really great phones, so no objection to any of it. It's just they're unremarkable upgrades.
In Android world, I would still only buy like a Samsung phone or a Pixel. Like that's it. Everything else I'd feel too worried about, like security updates being slow and bad.
Yeah, like for me, I think like if you're talking about just, for example, OnePlus, I worry a little bit about the quality of the updates. And that's not to say OnePlus is putting out bad updates, but they have put out bad updates. And it seems like they've kind of lost enough ground in the US that maybe they're not prioritizing the US where they used to.
Yeah, that's the other thing Samsung is very good at. Is like they're in that same category as Apple, where it will work with every possible carrier and configuration in the US. Like you put like any SIM, you don't have to worry about it. Mm-hmm. Like when I had my S20 something, I just put in my Cricket SIM card and I reboot it. It's like, all right, Cricket works perfectly. I've got the voicemail app, it got the Samsung one. It's all done. Every other phone, especially ones that are like not really super focused on the US, like have issues with that.
Slenderman says that his dad's got a cheap $128 Android smartphone. Yeah, okay.
I think that'd be better.
Yeah, literally anything's an upgrade at this stage.
Yeah, definitely check out. I don't know what carrier the data's on, but definitely check what the carrier is doing and check Samsung's website, because Samsung's website is pretty generous with, if their trade-in program works, you might get a decent chunk off, but definitely see what the options are. Oh, okay, it's through Verizon. All right, then yeah, probably carrier or something would work.
And he worked for Verizon. Yeah, definitely. Just they'll do some kind of a trade-in. It doesn't have to be a good phone. They'll take any. I'm assuming they've probably got some kind of a trade-in to
all the carriers are doing
upgrade, or not free, but for a big discount.
Yeah, all the carriers are doing the usual trade-in, like anything that was ever made as a phone, and we'll give you free money if you are on a plan we like or whatever. But yeah, that's the S25 series. Again, it's fine. It's not. I don't think anyone wanted or expected like a complete overhaul. I would have liked to see more stuff from the Ultra trickle back down to the base phones, especially considering I don't want a big phone. And that was my issue with Samsung with getting the base Galaxy phone for a while, was I kind of wanted the stuff they were putting in the Ultra phones, not even necessarily the camera stuff, because I know to a certain extent that's just physics. Like the Ultra is larger and has a larger, sensor mount on it, so they can put more powerful cameras, but my camera's frozen.
Yeah, I was noticing it too, and I was looking at it trying to figure out what was causing it or fix it, and then it just started working as I was moving, as I was just about to press a button. I don't know what it was.
Now it's back.
The web view that I see you through, you were fine. OBS just seemed to freeze. Its read.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I believe this is my first RambleCast with the further improved Corbin apartment networking setup, so I hope there's no issues. But also my modem was being stupid a couple hours ago, so I had to reboot that.
So you never know.
No. There's always something.
But let's see. So yeah, sorry, I lost track. What did you just finish saying?
Just that these are the S25 phones, and they're not crazy upgrades, or really much of an upgrade at all. But if your phone's old, you need a new one. It's just fine.
Okay.
Especially considering Samsung is still pretty good with OS and security updates. So you buy this, I think they're doing 7 years of updates now. Somewhere up there.
Yeah, I can't remember, but 7 sounds right, because I don't think they pushed up to 8, and I'm pretty sure Pixel is matching them.
Here's the press release. Combined with 7 generations of OS upgrades and 7 years of security updates.
Okay.
So, pretty good. And it's shipping with, is it the latest Android? Yeah, it's Android 15 One UI 7. Is that the latest? Or 16?
It's 15.
Oh. Okay.
16
I can't keep track.
would be will be hitting beta presumably soon.
I know I definitely wrote about. Yeah, I know I definitely wrote about developer previews, but I don't remember what I wrote more than a day ago. So
correct.
Also, one thing didn't mention, still no wireless, still no MagSafe. So this was supposed to be the big thing, is that once MagSafe became Qi 2, Samsung would presumably put it in their phones. Didn't do it. Still no magnets. You still need a case that adds the magnets. And I don't know if you get the fastest possible charging speed over Qi 2 or MagSafe with this either. I think you do, but you don't get the magnets. So you still need a case that puts the magnets in the right spot.
Yeah, part of me wonders if that's a little on purpose, where maybe they're doing this again to appease case makers, or are they doing this to avoid? I don't know if there's like a licensing cost attached to MagSafe. Like, Apple technically opened it up, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a licensing fee, and I'm just honestly not sure if Apple is charging that or not.
They got a big magnet.
So yeah, that's in a way, I don't know that I mind that too much, because does it really matter if it's not in the phone? Since I admittedly, I don't know for sure, but I have a feeling 95% of people probably put cases on their phones. Maybe I'm overestimating that a bit, but I never see people without cases on their phones.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's a little bit weird. Like, also there is just the physical cost of, like, maybe they just didn't want the extra weight and space you need in the phone to have the magnets.
Yeah, that's certainly possible.
They already have, like, the Qi charging, like, coils and stuff in there. So I don't know how much the magnet make a difference, but whatever. So
yeah,
that's the new phones. You can go and buy them.
Since we have the links, was there anything in here you wanted to say about the AI stuff, or
no?
Okay,
it has more AI stuff. I don't care.
Correct. So let's see, and we already talked about the Edge. The one thing I will highlight, because it is something that we talked about relentlessly on the Android Police podcast years ago. Samsung just for the longest time would not embrace seamless updates, and while the S25 is not actually the first Samsung phone to have seamless updates, it's the first flagship phone, and now that it's basically the second to support it, after what was the other one? The A55?
Yes, this does say A55.
Okay. Yeah, after it was ported on the A55 late last year. I think it was late last year. Yeah. It looks like this is enough of a pattern that we can assume this is actually going to stick. So, cheers to Samsung for catching up on the thing everyone else already agreed it was a good idea. Seamless updates, for those that don't remember or don't know, it's basically the thing where you can download an update, an OS update for your phone, and it installs in the background while you can continue to use your phone. And then all you have to do is reboot the phone, and once it reboots, you're up and running on the new version. There's no long install, there is a long install process, but you don't feel it. You do not have to sit there while your phone churns through a big long progress bar and says you can't do anything while it's installing. So your phone doesn't have to go for 20 some minutes without being able to take calls or any stupid thing like that. Which is this the biggest deal in the world? Probably not, but it's a big improvement. and as a Pixel user for all these years, it's madness to me that Samsung never got on board with this. I can get some of the reasons why they didn't, but I think those were generally bad reasons. And so, yay. This is the thing that makes me think maybe they finally caught on and care enough about users to fix this issue. So, cheers. Good for you, Samsung.
Yeah, I just I love this picture that's at the end of the article of Michelle holding the phone with the app that tells you if something is using seamless updates or not, because I know he would be the only person to do this. He'd be the only person at this event to like install the like super dev check app and check stuff like this. And I just think that's really entertaining, and that's real journalism. Everyone else can take, you know, pictures of the phones and show like Twitter on it. This is real stuff. This is real work here.
You know, fun fact. Years ago, I actually wrote an app for Android Police that it didn't do this specific thing, but it was basically an app that was intended to be, we'll just say, quietly installed on show floor devices for quick access to a whole bunch of stuff that we just might not have gotten any information about otherwise.
Right.
Yeah, that was a
the dev dump.
Yeah, that was a quiet, secret little thing.
Yeah,
and yeah,
just real quick while the PR person's looking the other way. It's like, oh, look over there. Download APK.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's almost exactly what it was. And it didn't get used a whole bunch, but it had its purpose.
Yeah, that and the tradition of, as soon as anyone got physical access to the device, like Artem asking in Slack, like, please upload every APK on the phone right now.
Yeah, so fun fact, I actually also wrote an app to do that, but that one never got to see the light of day for reasons that, well, he knows.
The days where that was like something that got checked on new phones, and then I get the new iPhone, I'm like, all right, here it is. I don't know what you can't check anything on these. It's all gated off.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, that is pretty much the Samsung phone situation. But Samsung wasn't done. There's actually a little bit more Samsung craziness that came up. They're finally revealing a little bit more about their AR, VR, XR goggles. And it's basically, to say they're revealing more, it's almost on par with the Galaxy Edge stuff, where this is almost more of a tease than anything else. So they revealed their new mixed reality glasses. It's a pair of goggles that looks not exactly like, certainly, but similar enough to the Vision Pro from Apple, or well, kind of a cross between the Apple Vision Pro and the Quest, I guess, kind of the Quest 3 goggles.
Well, that's the one that got revealed already when Google did the Android XR announcement.
Right.
They showed pictures of the Samsung thing, but I think this was the first time like anyone in real life could see one or took pictures. I think Samsung and Google let like some journalists try it out.
Yeah. Notably outside of a few people who've actually encountered these things for ages, because apparently Samsung's just been working on this for a very long time. And it sounds like the hardware, maybe not the specs of the hardware, but it sounds like the physical design has been around for quite a while now. Which might explain why it also looks weirdly unpolished, but so it goes. Anyway, the key thing here is they don't have anything to launch yet. Samsung effectively said, yes, we absolutely want to do this. We want to do it as soon as possible. Ask again later.
Well, the important clarification here is the thing there's still not a lot of details about the headset, like the thing that looks like the Vision Pro, but this article is talking about a separate glasses, like actual like glasses form factor that would be like Meta's smart glasses, the Ray-Bans or whatever.
Oh, okay.
So
I read a different thing and I thought this was the same. That's
so yeah, they're not
showing the details.
Yeah, well, they're not showing they haven't showed the glasses at all, and so this is just them saying like, yeah, they're working on it, and it'll be out sometime. So we haven't reached yet the Galaxy Home level. Remember the like smart speaker thing or whatever they showed once, and then like for 5 years, everyone would be like, "Where's the Galaxy Home?" And be like, "I don't know." Stop asking.
Kind of like AirPower.
The single pre-production Galaxy Home unit got taken out behind the barn. Was never seen again. It went to the farm upstate.
Yeah. So either way, we're still in that weird holding pattern where Google and Samsung are working on this. They want to get products out, but they just literally have nothing to release yet. And the reason, given the fact they have basically nothing new to say, I almost wanted to skip this, but I figured it was worth mentioning for one thing. And it's a thought that I've had kicking around in my head for a little while. I think, in all likelihood, we're going to see this announced at I.O. this year, but with a giant caveat. Because of Apple's, let's say, fumble with the Vision Pro, I think Google and Samsung could push out to next year for a actual release, just because if they release, okay, here's the deal. When it comes to launching a product into what is already kind of a complicated category, you kind of have two options. You can release it early and buggy, and as long as you make good, fast progress and it's still a usable product and interesting, and people can acknowledge that it's still early for a product category, they're willing to overlook some of the bugginess as long as they see progress. This isn't something Google's particularly great at, but I mean, it's what they do a lot of the time. They just don't necessarily land the plane. But they can do that this year. If they decide to wait till next year, they need to release a very full-featured, fully developed product that's ready to go for the market. So but the thing is, I think it has to now be this year with a sort of semi-buggy but ready to go product, or next year with this thing's perfect, this thing's polished and ready to go product. That's it. At this point, they're already late to market. You have to either get in there and get it on the market, or wait and release something too good that everyone turns around and goes, oh, whoa, okay, yeah, this is what we want. Because otherwise, they're basically in danger of becoming Windows Phone. they've been lagging behind so much on this. They're gonna show up with a product that's, um, you know, it has to wow people and get them to say, oh, you know what, I had some goggles from Meta, and they're fine, they're good for some stuff, but this is better. Or the people who are Apple faithfuls that actually got a Vision Pro, you've got to convince them that their Vision Pro is just not it. And that's like, otherwise you're not going to win in this competition. You're going to fall by the wayside and become the odd man out. And look, with all the development they're putting into this, and with the head start that Apple and Meta both have, it's really a thing where you got to come in strong. So the clock is ticking. Like, that's it. There's not a lot of leeway left. So again, I think because of Apple's fumble, you could wait till next year. If it weren't for Apple's fumble, it would have had to be this year, period. That's it. So that's my opinion on this. I think they've got a little bit more time, but not much.
So okay, I'm trying to think my coherent opinion on this. I would say I don't really have an opinion yet on the AR glasses because I have not used anything in that category. I haven't really seen people use it. I know a couple of people said they like it. My impression is that that's kind of just like a camera and a speaker and a microphone in a pair of glasses. And so what that can do heavily relies on what it can offload to the phone. So I don't really know, I don't know really what that product segment is capable of, or what the main selling point would be of something that's not built by Meta in that category. Like, maybe the Samsung glasses with a Samsung phone can do something really cool. I don't know. So I don't really have an opinion on that. I have opinions on the headset because I actually have used VR headsets, and I have the Quest 3. Corbin, we all know you put on a Google Glass every time you get in the shower. I never had a Google Glass. That was like way too expensive when it was new. I was like, I had enough money to put together for a Nexus 5. That's what I got.
Hey, I still have my Google Glass hanging on the wall, in its carry satchel, right like 4 feet from me.
Yeah. So yeah, in terms of the VR glasses, I don't think they really need to rush. I think if there's a need to rush, I think it's just to like make investors slightly happy that they're trying a new market segment that might make them more money. I really hope they don't start off by releasing what looks like a very expensive high-end initial prototype headset, and that's the only thing you can buy at first, because that's what Apple just did, and it really was not a good idea. It was really not a good idea for them to try to make a platform that's supposed to have like mainstream apps and software and mass appeal for that ecosystem, but then only make it available in a headset that costs like $4,000 after taxes. So I would hope that whenever Samsung brings this to market, ignoring like, I'm sure there's going to be like a dev unit like Android Daydream did for its like standalone thing. Like, that was never a thing that normal people were supposed to buy. And when they finally bring it to market with like real marketing and put it in like a Best Buy or whatever, I would hope they have a high-end thing that is like an Apple Vision Pro type device, and they have a low-end thing that is a similar price to whatever Meta has at the time. Like, there can be the, fuck you, I have $3,000 to spend on this, I want the best display that Samsung's factories can create. and there needs to be a thing that is like around $300. I think both of those have to exist, and they have to exist immediately. Or if Google can get like another company to work with them to make the cheaper, worse one that comes out at the same time, I think that's also maybe fine. But I would imagine Samsung is really the only one with like the vertical integration to do that at a good price point. Because Meta could do it because they were like dumping money into this ecosystem to kickstart it, and Google and Samsung have historically not been willing to do that in most product categories, especially Google. So I don't think they're gonna like sell a low end thing at a loss. So I don't know. That's kind of what I would like to see is whenever this becomes real, which I'm not convinced they need to do in a rush, because Apple clearly did not capture a market if it existed. They really screwed up. I think they can take their time. I think Samsung and Google can take their time a little bit, make sure that it's good to go on day one. It's a good experience, has a lot of software, get games on it. That's kind of important. And make sure there's a cheap one that normal people can buy. That's my take.
So,
as I would like a Google/Samsung Quest competitor that has a similar feature set and similar games. That'd be great. I would like to not, be the only thing in the market is the headset made by the Nazi social media owner. That'd be good.
Oh, we don't know that he's a Nazi. That's Musk.
That's the other one. Well,
we just know Zuckerberg is willing to sympathize with, and
right.
Soft sympathy, not, he doesn't necessarily agree with or like him, but he doesn't want to kick him off the platform.
Right. Zuckerberg is not doing the Heil Hitler. He's just going on Joe Rogan being like, man, women are really annoying now.
Yeah. Women and minorities, what's the deal?
Oh. Yeah.
So that distinction between glasses and goggles. Just to be clear, everything I said totally focusing on goggles. I think glasses, because the technology, literally no one's cracked that yet. So, I'm not even factoring that.
Having a screen in that form factor is not like really a thing that's usable. All the smart glasses are like, they've got a camera and a microphone and a speaker, so you can talk to it, and the camera gives it like a vision of what you're seeing. But that's kind of where that's staying right now.
Mm-hmm. As far as goggles, the reason, the thing is, I think the reason that I say Google and Samsung have a time limit on them, it's because the longer they wait, like Apple wouldn't even have to be part of the equation. The longer they wait, the more Meta becomes entrenched. I mean, Meta's already pretty deeply entrenched, but there's an element here of it's just going to get worse. And the fact that Apple is there, even though Apple really, really fumbled, they fumbled bad. The fact of the matter is there are still developers who are at least tinkering with and doing stuff with the Vision Pro. Right now, that doesn't exist for Google. There's nobody outside of Google's own team that's working on this, and maybe they do have some partners that are working on the side, but they're not getting user feedback. They're not getting anything that they can't learn from watching what Apple's going through. And hey, that is a competitive advantage. Sometimes you get to watch what another company tries and goes, "Oh, hey, yeah, they screwed up here. That's something we can learn from and fix our product before we release it." That is an advantage. That is a thing that they can work with. But fundamentally, if Apple, I'm just going to give a exaggerated example here, but let's say Samsung and Google wait 5 years for this. even if Apple stumbles and goofs for say 3-4 more years, I don't know, however long it is, the longer you give Apple to do something with this, the more likelihood they're going to get it right. Or maybe not right, but at least get it figured out. And or enough developers will just become committed to Apple's platform, and that's kind of it. If Google doesn't get something into the equation, people will eventually just settle on the things that are there, and that's it. There won't be space for another competitor. Right now there's space because, I mean, you and everyone, well, not everyone else, but you and a lot of other people, certainly myself included, there's a reason I haven't touched Meta's stuff. Yeah, we don't want products from a company that is known to be so spiteful towards its users. I mean, okay, Twitter is definitely more spiteful toward its users, but you know, few companies treat their users quite as badly as Meta. So yeah, I don't want their products, but
also, like, if Google, I know I said this already when Android XR was announced, but like, if it is functionally identical to how Android is now, it's going to be the most open mainstream headset thing. Like, I know there's like some companies that are much smaller making like more hackable hardware here, but like Android as an ecosystem, you can sideload apps. It's a toggle. Meta makes you like sign up for like a developer account, which is free, but still to like just access the toggle. So if they keep that, ideally, if it's, this won't happen if Samsung makes it, but like ideally, if Google made like a Pixel headset thing, it would have an unlockable bootloader. That would be nice. That doesn't exist in any of Meta stuff, except John Carmack on his way out the door for Meta was like, please unlock the bootloader on the original like Oculus. I think it was, I don't know if it was the Oculus Go or the Oculus or the first Quest, but he was like, can you like unlock that, because we're fully like, it doesn't work anymore. And they did do that, but everything else is like super locked down.
yeah.
And that was kind of one of my issues with Apple's thing. It's like, this is more locked down than an iPad, and an iPad's already very locked down. This is so far from like a computer I would want to use on a regular basis. Diablo said, imagine they extend any desktop screen too. I would be shocked if that's not there on day one, because that's historic. That was a big pitch for Apple on the Vision Pro. I know one person who got the Vision Pro, and like being able to have a giant display for their MacBook or whatever at anywhere was like, that's kind of the main thing they like.
I mean, I've been saying for ages that's the number one reason I want it.
Yeah,
and
like
if
Meta,
I had the money, I absolutely would have gotten one just for that.
Yeah, and like Meta already implemented that, and just recently they worked with Microsoft on a thing built into Windows 11 to do that. So like when you have a Quest headset and it's near a Windows 11 PC, it'll like ask you if you want to set that up. So yeah, so that's Samsung stuff.
Yes. So yeah, but Samsung wasn't the only company that was peddling AI, as always. And actually, I almost, looking at it now, I almost wish that I'd moved this up to go with the Netflix thing, because it just thematically goes with it. But Microsoft 365 is also doing its price hike, because when one company does it, everyone has to do it, right? Right? That's how capitalism works.
Yeah, so what happened is Microsoft changed their Microsoft 365 plan, which is the thing that used to be called Office 365. It's what you can pay for if you want like all the Office apps with OneDrive and all that stuff. And when they started rolling out Copilot AI features in those apps, it required a separate Copilot subscription, which I think was $20 a month, and it unlocked like a lot of AI integrations that run on their cloud. So you could get it to like, help you write stuff in the apps or convert Word documents to, nicely formatted PowerPoint presentations, or like get it to help you write Excel equations and that kind of stuff. Summarize emails in Outlook. And the news now is that the AI features are just in the base Microsoft 365 plan, and they are raising prices. So what's kind of dumb here is they are adding the AI features in the apps. They also at the same time are adding a switch to turn them off, because before now, if you didn't want it, you could just not pay for it. But now you're paying for it. So they're like, yeah, we get that, like, some people are going to use Word in like schools and stuff that like really don't want this. So we will add an off switch. It's an opt out, not an opt in, of course. And also how this works is it's not unlimited AI use. Like, you can't sign up for Microsoft 365 and just smash that generate button on like the art, like the Microsoft Designer art, AI art button for like all day. They won't let you do that. So there is a monthly allotment of credits, and every time you do something with the AI, you use a credit. And they said that the monthly allotment should be enough for most subscribers, which I believe is true, because I don't think most people are going to use the AI feature.
Yeah.
Like, I think they give you, let me check. Because I was checking this because I have a 365 plan, and they have, if you go to your Microsoft account now, along where you see like everything you're subscribed to, they do have a page now for like how many AI credits you have left on the month. So I'm at, okay, yeah, so it's 60 a month. So every time you like rewrite something with the AI or ask it to change something in document, it uses one. So probably, like, even if you're like kind of using this, it's probably fine. I don't think that's really the issue. The annoying part is that they have raised prices. So now the personal plan, like if you just have one person, went up from $70 a year to $100, and the family plan went up from $100 to $130. Now their argument, which I think is honestly a decent one, is they have never raised prices on this. Like, it has been $70 a year since this was Office 365 in 2013. So it is, I did the math. It is still under the rate of inflation. So it is technically cheaper than it was in 2013. Does it still suck? Yeah. But they did give the option for existing subscribers to switch to a secret classic plan that keeps it the same price and doesn't give you AI features. I don't know how much of a job they're doing telling people that exists. Or they still have the basic plan, which just gets you like 100 gigs of storage and none of the desktop Office apps, and that is still $2 a month or $20 a year. So I think that's a okay option for a lot of people. Or again, I'm gonna keep saying this, unlike Adobe, we're bringing this back. Unlike Adobe, you can still buy the Office apps if you want. They just updated it, so you can go on Microsoft's website or go to like, a store that has the physical cards. You can go buy Office 2024, which will not get feature updates for 4 years when they make a new one, but it will get security fixes, and that's like for one computer. And I think it's $120. It might be 200. Let me see. Microsoft Office 2024 is $150. So $150, you get Word, Excel, and PowerPoint in perpetuity on one computer. So that's an option. Or maybe you don't need the Microsoft specific stuff. You can go switch to LibreOffice. That's also a good option, especially now that, or I say now, I think this started a couple of years ago. Now that LibreOffice has several different UI options, including one that looks exactly like current Office with the tabs and the ribbon bar. So maybe you can do that. Just don't. I also mentioned in my article that like Apple does have Office apps, but they're really bad. I think almost anything else would be better. Please don't make yourself suffer and use Pages. No one uses Pages. You don't need to do that to yourself. Don't use Numbers. I've never heard a single person who likes the Apple Excel clone.
Yeah,
don't
no,
do that.
It's famously bad. To be honest, I don't think I've ever opened it. So I'm certainly not going to try to.
I have when I download a CSV file and it tries to open in that version. I'm like, no, don't do that. That's not the app. I want you to open in Excel.
Yeah, I'm not sure I've ever even installed these. Well, no, I have installed them. I don't think I ever launched them.
Mine came with my Mac, so I've never downloaded them, but they are there.
Right. Let's see. Just double. Yeah, I don't have any of them installed. They might have come with my Mac, but I very likely uninstalled right away, or I don't know. I don't uninstall too many of the included things immediately, though. It's possible I actually would have taken those off. But yeah, I just have no interest in them. So this whole thing just screams, and I'm sure I can't possibly be the only person saying this, but this whole thing just screams that Microsoft is in that position of, like, how do we, like, we now made AI, how do we make money on AI? And so, yeah, this feels sort of like the forced migration. This is sort of like when Google decided Google Plus needs to be a success. We built it, now we need to jam it into everything, and we'll kind of try to make you use it no matter what. And this feels exactly like that. They could now basically flip around and say, hey investors, look at this, we now have X number of people paying for a paid plan with AI in it. And that looks really good in a call or on a sheet of paper. But in practical terms, anyone who's got any amount of common sense and knows what just happened is going to say, yeah, but how many of these people are using it or care about it? How many of them are just literally paying for the plan because they need the Office 365 plan and they don't want the AI at all? Like, how many of those people exist? Because that's kind of worth knowing before making any more commitments or, piling more cash onto AI that's maybe or maybe not really cutting it.
Yeah, I have Microsoft 365. I did sign up for the Copilot plan, I think twice, and then canceled it after a month on both times because it's just not useful to me. In all my work, the part where I'm like typing words is never the like annoying or time intensive part. It's the thing that whatever I'm writing about is the time intensive part, and
the words you've written are the annoying part.
Right. Yeah. So like all the like writing, rewriting, outlining stuff is not useful to me. It's not been useful. I even tried it when it rolled out on my account. I like gave it a a poorly written blog post change log of something I was writing about. It was like, can you make this a news article? And it's like the worst thing you've ever read. And it sounds exactly like everything I've ever read from ChatGPT because they're using the same model. So I was like, no, this is garbage. I gotta toss this out. And you know, I don't really need like my emails summarized, and I don't use Outlook anyway, so I don't care. And using the AI to help me write Excel formulas is useful, but I was already doing that with free ChatGPT, so that's not something I'm gonna use either. So I'm not gonna really use any of this probably. And it is definitely we need people to use this thing because Google actually, so Microsoft's change is that the consumer Microsoft 365 plan includes this AI stuff, but the corporate accounts do not. So like if I'm a company setting up Microsoft accounts for all my employees, Copilot is still an extra fee. Now Google just did the reverse thing, where if you have a corporate Google Workspace account, they just raised prices on those and included Gemini stuff. But they haven't done that to the consumer side. So there is definitely a trend of both of these companies going towards it's just a thing that's there and we can raise prices a little bit to justify it. So it's getting pretty silly. But in this case, I you know, if you don't like this, you can switch to the old plan, which is only available to current subscribers. Ironically, I can't actually do this because I paid for multiple years of Microsoft 365 and I don't have recurring billing on, so I can't like switch to this plan. But that's a problem for Corbin in 2027 to worry about. So maybe things will be very different by then. But you can switch plans. You can switch to the basic one that doesn't have the Office apps, or you can buy Office and use whatever cloud storage you want, or no cloud storage, or just use LibreOffice. So you've got a lot of options. And again, it's the first price increase since this was a service. So I think that's a lot more tolerable than Netflix doing it every 6 months. So,
yeah. Well, yay, I guess. I don't know. This feels sad to see, but at the same time, completely 1000% expected. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm still paying for Microsoft 365 mostly for OneDrive because it is pretty good pricing on cloud storage. And they have apps and web apps that work on everything somewhat well. It's not perfect, but it does seem to work better than Google Drive. And Apple's like iCloud stuff. It's just like if you need to access your files on something that is not an Apple device, no, you're not.
Yeah.
You better hope that shitty iCloud web app works.
Yeah, well.
And it doesn't even, like, I read a lot of posts from people who use iCloud on Apple devices and say it doesn't work and doesn't sync sometimes. So that just seems like something I don't want to touch at all.
Honestly, I'm not even sure why they're, well, I know why they're bothering because they have investors basically banging on their door demanding it, but yeah, it just feels like Apple is so in the wrong place with this that I'm not really sure what they're doing or why.
I mean,
they're doing
yeah, I mean, like cloud storage is something that like has been on Macs for like 20 years because they had MobileMe and then they had the .Mac thing before that. I think maybe one thing before that. So like that's useful, but I hear there's constant issues with like its syncing files are not working right, and Apple really likes making software where like if something doesn't work, it's no idea how to fix it.
Yeah.
Because iCloud is just built into the system, so if it doesn't work, like, what are you gonna do? Reinstall macOS? No, you're not. It takes too long.
Yeah.
People go decades without doing it.
It's weirdly true. Yeah, it's funny because I've literally just been listening to a podcast from a bunch of Apple faithfuls. As the episodes I'm listening to, they're talking have talked very specifically about how infuriating it is when they're trying to do stuff like photo uploads or like if from one iPhone to the next upgrades, and the sync process and how long it takes, and that they get no feedback about anything until all of a sudden it's just done one day, and even when it finishes they might not get feedback about that. Like, yeah, there's a lot of sort of anti-user patterns going on that they need to fix. But fortunately, like, I personally don't rely on iCloud for basically anything. I suppose technically there's a couple of things I half rely on it for, but even then it's limited.
So speaking of user hostile, TikTok got banned for a second and then came back, but now it's back in like a not technically legal way. So
I believe it is now legal.
No, not really. So what happened is Congress signed the stupid law. Yeah, I think it was in 2024. I don't think it was before that. That said TikTok had X amount of days to divest itself from ByteDance or be banned in the US. No one expected ByteDance to do that.
Oh, plenty of people expected it. It was just a dumb expectation.
Right. And the deadline for that was, I believe, Inauguration Day.
No, it was the day before. It was the 19th.
Well, okay. All right. So, yeah. So TikTok went down like slightly before that deadline hit.
Yes.
Just to like avoid like any... Because they were going to get like fined out the ass if they stayed online after that. So they took down the app and they said like, oh, we're working to restore it. And then Trump, who would be inaugurated the next day, I guess told them that he would sign an executive order that would pause the ban. So then TikTok came back online even though Trump wasn't president yet and had not signed an executive order. So everyone's just kind of like, all right, I hope you don't find me tomorrow. So then
a little bit more specificity on this. Trump explicitly told them and made... He did make an announcement about this, but it was more of a, kind of like hearing somebody make a promise in a bar. He basically said, we're not going to enforce any of the penalties that you would have incurred from the ban. And I'll sign an executive order pushing this out, further so you have an opportunity to sort this out. So yeah, technically the penalties of the ban could have been imposed, but if you got a president saying, don't worry, I'll make sure that none of that happens, then you're kind of free and clear to just break the law, air quote, because yeah, no one, if nothing's going to happen to you, laws don't apply.
Yeah, so Trump got inaugurated and he signed a bunch of executive orders, most of which are horrifying.
That's putting it gently.
And yeah, and there was the one that put a, I believe it's 75-day pause on the ban. So they have until, I believe that's April, to figure something else out. My impression, not being a political journalist whatsoever, is that it seems more likely to me now that they will divest or do something instead of getting banned. Because the last time this happened, when Trump was, in office initially, because it started with him, and then Biden became president, and there was the bipartisan law because Democrats are so stupid, they fell for this. That when that was happening initially, ByteDance was like, no, we're not doing that. Go pound sand. But this time, the message on the app when they came back was like, thank you, President Trump, for bringing us back. We really appreciate it. And the CEO of TikTok was like in a video saying like, oh, thank you, President Trump. We'll work with you as much as we can. He showed up to Trump's inauguration along with all the other kiss-ass tech CEOs. I think he also donated $1 million like the other kiss-asses. So I feel like it's more likely this time that they'll work out something. Maybe it's not a complete divestment. Maybe it's just like U.S. companies get to own a chunk of the U.S. division. I saw one thing that was like the government might own a stake, which is again like I'm sorry. I know pointing out hypocrisy with Republicans like doesn't matter anymore. Like that's a ship that sailed long before I was a conscious adult. But I don't think small government means you own like a big chunk of a major social media website. I think we're getting pretty far from it now.
Generally speaking, governments, or the U.S. government, has avoided owning and or running private businesses that are in competition with any other sort of thing. And in the rare instances where they are involved with something, technically the private business still operates and is a contractor of the government rather than the government owning it. So the example there being the IRS.
Yeah, or in the instance of the postal service, like that's run like a private company and they coordinate with FedEx or whatever to fill in the delivery gaps that exist in those networks. But yeah, like why is this the thing we're nationalizing? That's really cool. I love that.
Very simply because it can be used for propaganda, which is very much a thing that the current administration seems to be in favor of.
Yeah, I don't know where it got posted, but I saw someone, I'm assuming this is real, someone posted a screenshot that you can't search Free Palestine on TikTok anymore, and I believe the phrase Democrats was also not bringing up results.
Same with Facebook. Actually, Facebook.
Yeah. I might be thinking of Facebook. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't know if this was a thing on TikTok, but it was definitely a thing on Facebook. On Facebook, if you search for Democrats, I want to say it was Green New Deal, January 6th, and there was a couple of others. If you search for any of these things on Facebook, they would just literally turn up no results, and or they showed a message saying that for whatever reason, I forget what it said specifically, they would not show those results. So it was very blatantly just restricting those. Meanwhile, you could search for various things like Republicans, conservative talking points, things like that, and get results. So yeah, it looks really bad. Mostly because it is really bad.
Yeah, so that's not fun. And TikTok now has 75 days to figure something else out. There's a lot of speculation about which people or companies could be buying a piece of it. Mr. Beast was popping up because we just really live in hell at this point.
Okay.
I don't know if he's worse than Larry Ellison.
Yeah, okay.
Uh,
that's why I wanted to get to that one.
This is like this is like the chaotic evil versus the actual evil.
Okay. I want to come back to Mr. Beast because I have a couple of comments on this, but very briefly,
you have many Mr. Beast thoughts. You bought the Lunchables Mr. Beast clone. You're gonna do a review?
No. No to all.
Okay.
No, but I do have a weird theory that is kicking around, but I want to come back to that in a second. First, Trump has openly said that he's open to the idea of Elon Musk or Larry Ellison either being involved in or outright purchasing. Elon Musk, I don't know if he's liquid enough to come up with this. Obviously, I'm sure he would get a bunch of investors to go with him on a purchase like this, but who knows what the case would be there. Also, there's a small part of me that wonders if Elon Musk tried buying TikTok, and we've all heard rumors that Trump isn't actually a big Musk fan. I kind of wonder if all of a sudden the Trump administration, which has historically been pretty open to the idea of allowing companies to get too big and to hold monopolies, would they possibly look at this and say, you know what? Yeah, we're actually going to start imposing some rules again because we don't like the idea of you owning both Twitter and TikTok. I don't know if that would happen, but I could kind of see it happening.
That's what I'm hoping. I'm always hoping for, because it's got to happen at some point, because they're both like raging narcissists. So
Yeah,
there's going to be a really big blow up at some point, and that's what I'm hoping for now. That's
pretty
what
much.
I'm looking forward to, that, and hopefully the new Tron movie not being awful. Those are the two things I have going for me at this moment.
Wow.
And I'm not confident about the Tron movie. I'm not confident about Jared Leto whatsoever.
The mere fact that you're hanging either of your hopes on these is dude, you need to take up drinking. Anyway,
If Tron gets under 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, I'm gonna need something. I'm gonna need some kind of intervention.
It's occurring to me drinking might not be strong enough for you. So
No,
anyway,
that's okay.
we'll just
Okay.
dance right past
I've
that.
got my hacked Wii now with lots of games on it to play and forget about the horrors.
Yes. So anyway, and so the other name, Larry Ellison, of course, he's a former founder, I believe he was founder, and former CEO of Oracle. Look, I'm not going to go down this guy's entire list of accolades. The short version is, how do I say this? Bro be crooked, yo. Is probably like the best way to say it. Notoriously. Notoriously. Go ahead.
I would say most evil person I'm aware of in the tech industry. Like I think it's him. Elon is up there for sure. But Elon doesn't yet have, well, they're evil in very different ways.
Yeah.
Larry Ellison is more the like working in the background to like destroy society kind of guy, and then Elon is the very public like being really fucking annoying kind of evil. So they're
what
in
you're
different
saying
spaces,
is Elon is the
but
bridge troll, and Larry Ellison
Right.
is the Illuminati.
Right.
Which, given the company Oracle name, the Illuminati feels like a appropriate link.
He's evil because Oracle is responsible for Java. That's the only thing.
They're not though. Sun is responsible for Java. Oracle just bought it and
That's
decided
true.
to use it as a cudgel, so they could sue. Google, and so that they could a little bit so that they could own the thing that what platform is it PeopleSoft? I don't remember. Anyway, whatever it is, something that they have is built on Java, and they wanted to own the development platform to ensure that whatever it was that they had wouldn't be sort of segmented out of Java.
Do you think that if they buy TikTok, when you install TikTok, it'll say like TikTok powers 3 billion devices?
Okay. I don't have
Like
an
Java
answer to
does.
that. But so it really quick as more material evidence of Ellison just being awful. Just to give context, because I think that this is a little bit more salient. Of course, you remember the infamous Microsoft antitrust cases of the 90s and 2000s. We may have spoken about this, in fact, in an organized fashion. Some people might call it a podcast. So if you go back in history and look into the details, Ellison personally hired a spy to apply for jobs at Microsoft, or spies to go apply for jobs at Microsoft, and work there as a custodian, so that he could steal things from desks and trash bins out of Microsoft to be used illegally in the lawsuit. He is probably guilty of the... I don't think it's the first company to have ever done this, but basically a scam with all of their customers, where basically they get you onto their products and then progressively raise prices in really predatory ways based on your usage of the product, so that they could basically just bilk their customers for enormous amounts of money. Which was, in fact, they were part of the lobbying to Intel that pushed for higher core counts and also for hyper-threading and basically any excuse that they could use to start forcibly charging more, not just as per seed installations of Oracle, but per processor or per presumed core. So yeah, a lot of this stuff counts back to them because they were just looking for ways to bilk customers for more money. And honestly, the list of really horrific things that the company under Ellison has done, wow, go look it up. It's some wild reading. And he himself is just, it's sort of like if you had a toned down John McAfee. That's the best way I have to say it. It's a toned down John McAfee.
Austin said, while Ellison is 80, and normally that would be a good thing, because eventually the confines of the mortal coil will take him out. But I'm definitely sure that Oracle will...
Yeah, that's not how it works for vampires. They live forever as long as they can feed.
I was gonna say Oracle is definitely gonna do the like Arasaka supercomputer thing, and he's just gonna get uploaded into that and be evil for all eternity.
Yeah, that works too. You can tell we think highly of this person. Anyway, so
Yeah.
he is a potential buyer of one of the biggest social networks in the world. That being said, to my knowledge, Larry Ellison, at least personally, does not have anywhere near the money necessary to pick up TikTok. Elon Musk himself, he in theory, if he were to sell half of everything he owns, he could possibly buy TikTok on his own. Ellison doesn't come close. That being said, either one of them would obviously approach this with other investors. So I'm sure if they were to try to make a purchase, then that's how it would go. So coming back to, or this kind of brings me back to Mr. Beast. Evidently, at least according to the Associated Press, Mr. Beast has not actually levied a bid yet. However, apparently it is still on the table that he might become a bidder. And apparently he has been talking with other potential investors for doing this. Now, my theory, and it is a little bit stretched. I'm not denying that for a second. But I could totally picture one of the investors he's talking with being Amazon. Because obviously, one, he actually has a relationship with Amazon itself. He just released a show on there, The Beast Games. And he's obviously also done some, I believe, at least for a while, had some sort of relationship with Twitch. He's, I believe, started or is starting distribution of some of his gross foods on Amazon. And all of these are fairly normal, average things for anybody, but we are also talking about Mr. Beast here. So the thing is, if anyone out there could probably get Bezos to sit down and have a conversation about this, it would be him. And that leaves me thinking that it's not completely implausible that Amazon might be throwing their money behind this as a potential pickup, because after all, Amazon's, if you look through their ownership or their different products, the closest thing that they have to a quote-unquote social network is Twitch. And as we've all probably heard kind of low-key rumbling, Twitch has kind of been bombing overseas. Like they've closed up operations in a few countries now. And several other countries are not doing well. Twitch does okay in the US, but by many accounts, it's still not exactly a big, it's not a massive, overwhelming success. Which raises a number of questions in my mind, but that's a separate topic. So I could totally picture Amazon looking at TikToks and thinking, that's the answer. We want to be in video. We want this sort of thing. We want this user base. And there's probably a lot of synergy that could exist between the two platforms. So why not just straight up buy TikTok and have that? And then we make Jimmy Donaldson, aka Mr. Beast, into the face of TikTok, because of course anyone who sees that TikTok is an Amazon company is going to go, yeah, that makes it sound like it's for old people now. Whereas Mr. Beast keeps it the sort of, appealing to that demographic that they obviously would want to have on there.
Right. Mr. Beast has the unique quality of being likable to a general population.
To those who can't read news, yes.
Right. So he's got that going for him. So I can see him being looped into a lot of potential deals, or someone like him, they get another big social media person. And I can't wait until like Jake Paul says he's involved. That's gonna happen. It would definitely help a lot of these to have like someone people like. I don't know if anyone likes Jake Paul, but some people do. So
I'm fairly convinced no one actually likes Jake Paul. So, but people like to hate him, so that might be enough. That being said, we're also talking about Amazon here, so I give it like a month before they say, you know what? Is Andrew Tate available?
Yeah.
Again, Amazon.
Joe Rogan's gonna be involved here. That's
actually that's kind of believable.
Yeah, that'd make a lot of sense.
Because I could totally picture him wanting to have his own place to syndicate with. Anyway, so yeah, this could all be. This could go a dozen different ways. I feel like my theory that Amazon would want to be involved in this fits. It checks a lot of boxes, and also kind of goes along with the fact that Bezos was also one of the tech CEOs who's like, hey, where do I send that check for Donald Trump's inauguration? And while we're at it, can I give you more money for just any reason at all? So, it's speculation. There's nothing to base this on other than just a theory that it makes sense. But, it lands squarely in the we'll see, and I wouldn't be surprised. So that said, just as a side note, I just think it was interesting that Perplexity AI was also trying to get involved in this whole discussion a few days ago by saying they wanted to merge with TikTok. That's Austin. I read that and I don't know if you mean it the way I think you mean it, but kinky, bro. Kinky.
Be the funniest outcome here is Trump just merges it with Truth Social. Because that could happen too. And then he just like personally owns US TikTok to have after he leaves his position as Lord Emperor.
Yeah. Which I do on that note feel just obligated to circle back to that discussion of it becoming a government owned entity. And I can definitely say the last thing I want is for other people's tax money to be spent buying TikTok for the US government so that it can then be used as a really poor propaganda network. Like that other people's tax money bit. Because I don't make enough to... Yeah. Anyway, so...
Does that mean, do we all get like if the government owns X the Everything app, do we all get blue check marks and don't have to pay for it?
Are you kidding? It'll be like the DMV. We'll have to take a test.
Wait in line to get a check mark.
Are you and do you hold values that make America great again? That's how you get your check mark. You have to go down and take a standardized test.
Yeah.
Do you hate women and minorities? Great. We can get you a position.
You get 2 check marks.
Yes. So yeah, anyway. Yeah. At this stage, the thing I think I'm going to end on is just to note it's hilarious to me that they decided to push this to April. 75 days is a surprisingly short. Like, honestly, why not even 90? Go with a normal round number. But for some reason, 75.
You think this is something that Trump... I still think a strong possibility here is that, because in the executive order it does say like the ban could be stopped if, like, because this was in the law, like the ban could not be in effect if ByteDance has shown sufficiently that they're like complying with whatever security demands the U.S. has, or like is stepping up their independence or whatever. So Trump could just say at some point, like, yeah, I think TikTok's doing enough of a good job. We can let him stay. So that's also an option. So like I think that's also possible. It's just everyone kind of forgets about this, or he postpones it again, or says like, okay, we're gonna keep our eye on you, and then nothing ever happens.
Yeah, a very much exactly that. There is an angle where this all just magically goes away, and I don't know. I guess it depends on if enough bribery money comes through, or if people just decide that they're okay with how it's being run. Though I feel like too many conservatives want to own this, so I feel like something is going to be forced. TikTok, one way or another, is going to be someone's going to shove TikTok into doing something. I just don't know what it is, or to what extreme it will be. But I think they are willing to comply to an extent. Like I don't think they want to give it up entirely. They being China and ByteDance. But I wouldn't be surprised if this becomes a joint thing where they retain half ownership or something. I'm not sure what else, but yeah.
Yep, TikTok.
Okay, so are we done here?
I think so.
Okay, so one last topic. The Switch 2. It's kind of announced ish. Not really.
Yeah, I think the running theory I've seen other people say, and I think I believe it, is they were going to do this in April because that's when the official reveal is supposed to be. But there were just leaks out the wazoo on this, so they did a very early first look now.
They did a pixel
tease. Yeah. So we have our first look at the Switch 2. It looks like the Switch. Everyone who was wondering if they're going to do something crazy and stupid appears to have been wrong. This is just a more refined design of the Switch. Joy-Cons are a little bit different, but it's like the same form factor, same handheld that goes in a dock. Really, all they confirmed is like what it looks like, and they showed what might be a new Mario Kart game on it, but I'm not even convinced of that. It was just like a new, like a course no one's seen before. Could be another DLC for the Mario Kart game that came out like originally like 10 years ago. And they confirmed that the Switch 2 will work with most Switch games. So I'm assuming they mean it doesn't work with the games that require like the Nintendo Labo cardboard thing, like the ones that are built for the dimensions exactly of the original Switch, or something very specific to how the original Joy-Cons worked. That's my assumption. Kirby says Mario Odyssey 2, please. Mario Kart 8 came out in 2014 on the Wii U. Okay, so 11 years old. It's 2025 now. Yeah, okay. David said remaster Mario Kart 8. Remaster it again. Just keep remastering Mario Kart 8, yeah.
I mean, that is Naughty Dog's strategy to making money.
Yeah.
Come out with good game, remaster.
Yeah, I can't wait for Last of Us Part 1 Remastered Ultra Deluxe Part 1. And yeah, so I there's already been a lot of takes about like if this is gonna be worth upgrading or not. And my impression here is that this is not a thing for anyone to care about until a game comes out that is not on the original Switch. And that is probably when you need to consider upgrading.
So I don't have the strongest feelings or opinions about the Switch anyway, because I never had any of the Switches. But I will say, I think a bit of this is going to depend on, so I think some of this is going to depend a little bit on, obviously, compatibility with the old games, because as a note, certain Switch games may not be supported or fully compatible. But if presumably a decent number of the later ones are, where the games themselves will just play better because the Switch 2 will have better hardware, that might actually be a reason enough to upgrade. Kind of like how some games on, let's just throw a dumb example out there. Imagine some games on a Series S might play horribly, but if you were to get a Series X or whatever whatever Microsoft is going to come out with next, which will almost certainly support the same games, let's say a Pro model or whatever it would be called, if that would actually make a game play well enough to be worth playing, this alone might be a reason for an upgrade. Because there are games on Switch that, by all accounts, are not literally unplayable, but really damn close.
Yeah, that's the one thing not one of many things we still don't know is like if the Switch 2 will automatically improve any games or what the plan there is there, because historically when Nintendo has done backwards compatibility, it is functionally identical to how the game played originally. But also the last time they did that was in the transition from the DS to the 3DS. Maybe the Wii U was after that, but it was a long time ago because the Switch was a completely new platform with no backwards compatibility. So we'll have to see what they do.
Yeah. And at this stage there are rumors about what hardware is going to go in there, but I would be reluctant to put too much faith in any existing rumor at this point. Because the leaks are pointing to some pretty decent hardware, but it would still be old hardware. We're still talking about a device that is, by any objective definition, a mobile console. Even when it's plugged in and docked and whatever, it's still a mobile console as opposed to something that you're going to necessarily always play plugged in and clocked high enough that it can actually like pump some really heavy duty pixels. The Switch just isn't that kind of device. Not given its thermal limits and obvious physical design. So yeah, I don't know that I've never had one, so I don't have the strongest opinion here, and I'm probably not getting this. I at least I'm doubting I will. But if they come out with something that can't play at least some modern games pretty effectively, as in like most modern games that could be ported to it, I think they're going to have a lot of criticism piling up about basically coming out with, again, very old and outdated hardware at a bad time.
Yeah, I mean, I have my Switch that has barely been used in the past 2 years because all the third-party games coming out for it are very limited. and the Nintendo games that are coming out are also not the best quality in terms of um, like what I want, and they're always like $50 and $60 forever.
Yeah, that too.
So I bought the Xbox that has a bunch of games I'm getting on sale when they drop to like $10, and they all look very good, and I can cloud stream them to my bed with my Logitech handheld thing. So that's my preferred setup at this point.
Yeah, not that the game libraries are an overlap, but let's be honest. If you were going to get enough games on a Switch, it would actually just become more cost effective to go get like a Steam Deck or any other console that would cost more money, and you could just buy games much cheaper after they've been out for a few months.
Yeah, I mean the Steam. Yeah, I don't like. I know the Steam Deck and the Switch are like kind of the same form factor, but I
I wouldn't
like
equate them
yeah,
exactly,
because
except
like
for form
this.
factor.
Yeah, because like the Switch, you buy a game that's like made for the Switch, it'll always work with the Switch. But with the Steam Deck, like maybe your PC game gets updated and then the compatibility layer doesn't work.
Yeah.
And oops, you don't have that game anymore. That's the thing that happens all the time on the Steam Deck. So yeah, I'll see what happens. I'm just kind of in a space where the hardware has let me down, and a lot of the games I thought I'd like from Nintendo, I didn't really end up liking. So that's just how I feel.
Yep. So I know a ton of people are going to be watching this very closely, and I'm gonna hit with kind of an offhand take here, but I kind of wonder if things don't go necessarily as well as Nintendo would like them to, and obviously other fans of Nintendo, there have been rumors for quite a while that companies are kind of starting to look at Nintendo as an acquisition target. I sort of wonder if the Switch 2 is going to be that inflection point that either decides Nintendo has another several years before that becomes a thing, or if the buzzards are going to start circling really fast, because it could go either direction.
Yeah, I have nothing else.
Okay. Well, in that case, we are out of topics. Let's see. Kirby said GameCube level graphics on Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, unless you go through the hassle of installing Windows on a Steam Deck. Okay. Yeah.
Well, Windows on a Steam Deck, then your thing sucks for other reasons. Then it's
Yeah.
like, great, I can play every game, but my battery will last 30 minutes.
Yep.
And I also have to use Windows. That's the real disadvantage.
I mean, that's one of many disadvantages, but yes. So anyway, with that, I guess it is time to wrap it up. So, of course, Corbin, do you have anything you'd like to pitch, plug, or shill?
Not really. I'll put this link in the show notes. I made a new YouTube channel where I'm gonna post fun, silly edits with Final Cut Pro. I should have one sometime soon. It's like 95% done, but I want to see how much I can like because the one I'm working on right now, it is just like I'm learning Final Cut, so like I kind of like to make it as good as possible because that's how learning works. So I'm assuming that'll be done in the next couple of days, and then I'll talk about it here because I know we've talked about Final Cut Pro a couple times, and I was talking about it mostly in the abstract. Now I've actually used it, so I can talk about it. And I'm trying to find. Here's the link. So this is in the YouTube chat. So go subscribe.
Indeed. All right, and let's see. Yeah, that pretty much that pretty much does it for me. So, of course, huge thanks to supporters of the channel, Austin, Carson, David, Diablo, and Curvy Mermaid. If anyone would like to support the channel, if you like watching these podcasts, it certainly helps. There are links down below to Cash App, Streamlabs, and Patreon. And of course, huge thanks just to everyone who's coming by, chatting in the chat room, and all that good stuff. So, I will be back this weekend, of course, with the usual game streams, some Marvel Rivals, some Overwatch. Who knows? There's always that possibility we'll drag some Fall Guys back out of retirement. At this stage, I'm kind of starting to doubt that. Yeah. And of course, next week, we'll be back with another RambleCast. I hope everyone has an excellent rest of your week, and we will catch you in the next one. Good night, everybody.
Bye.